Hi and welcome to Clarinet 101. Today we're going to show you how to assemble the clarinet. Before we begin, you're going to need a paper towel, so go ahead and get that now. The first step is to set your clarinet flat on a secure surface. I would recommend the floor for most beginners in front of you, where it's really safe. That will prevent any falling parts from getting really damaged. Before we open our clarinet case, we must make sure it is right side up. This can be kind of tricky on a clarinet case, as there are many different case designs. On this case, I have only one handle. It will definitely be connected to the bottom half of the case. Some clarinet cases have a handle on each side, in which case you're going to need to tell from some other method. Another way to tell is that the bottom of the clarinet case is thicker than the top part of the clarinet case. If you have a logo or emblem on the case, it will definitely be on the top. Most clarinet cases will have the latches on the side, or on the front. On this case, they're on the side. I'm going to flip those up now and open my case slowly to make sure that no parts fall out. Now that I have my case open, I'm going to find the reed, which is the little chip of wood that makes the sound. Some reed cases slide outward to the side. Other reed cases, like this one, we pull from the rear. Take the reed out and place the thin tip in your mouth carefully. Leave it in there until I say so. This is going to allow the reed to absorb moisture while we're working. Normally I would leave this in my mouth while assembling my clarinet, but I'm going to go ahead and set it down to make sure that I can continue talking to you. The next step is to grease the corks. I'm going to find my cork grease. It looks like a little bit of chapstick. Trust me, it's not chapstick. I do not suggest you try it. Take the little cap off, place that back in the case, and make sure there's just a tiny little bit of grease sticking at the top. There are 4 corks on the clarinet that we need to grease. These are these exposed pieces that look different from the rest of the black clarinet. Find the smallest piece and apply a small amount of grease to it, like so. Then I'm going to take my 2 fingers and I rub that grease in, just lightly. It's very important that we use a small amount of grease, as we'll be doing this every time we assemble our clarinet, and we don't want too much grease to build up. I'm going to find the next piece and repeat the process again, applying just a small amount of grease to the clarinet cork, using those same 2 fingers to rub it in, making sure it applies to the entire cork surface. Then I'm going to take those 2 greasy fingers, keeping it away from the clarinet, apply a little bit more to that side, and rub it in, all the way around. I'm going to set that piece back in the case carefully. It can be difficult sometimes to hold the grease and the clarinet, but with practice it will become easier. And then finally the last piece, the same process. On that piece I put a little bit too much on, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my greasy fingers and my paper towel. I'm going to rub my fingers on there. I'm going to wipe the excess off with my paper towel so that it's not too greasy. Set that back down and place that piece back in the clarinet case the way I found it. I'm going to then cap my cork grease and place it back in the case. We're going to take the smallest 2 parts of the clarinet first. That's the mouthpiece and the barrel. These only fit together one way. If I put it together the wrong way, it's very loose. It doesn't really fit correctly. It should be a fairly snug fit that requires a nice light little twist together. If you need help, your band director can help you, possibly to show you how to fit those together without forcing it. On this mouthpiece I have a cap, a plastic cap. It may be silver. We can remove that and place it back in the case. We will not be needing it just yet. Once I've made sure that my mouthpiece is firmly connected to my barrel, this little ligature part, we need to loosen these 2 screws on the side like so. We don't have to loosen them too far, just a couple of turns each. Then I'm going to take my left hand, my non-dominant hand, and I make a gun. This allows my thumb to be free to move the ligature up and down like so. We're going to slide the ligature way up, creating space in between the mouthpiece and the ligature. This is the point where I take my reed out of my mouth. There's a curved side of the reed and a flat side of the reed. The flat part of the reed lies flat against the flat part of the mouthpiece, covering the mouthpiece hole. The reed does not sit down in the mouthpiece in any way. It's going to lay flat between the ligature and the mouthpiece. Holding the reed from its side, never touching the tip, which is very fragile. holding it directly from the side like so. I'm going to slide the ligature up and the reed in between the ligature and the mouthpiece. And when it's all held in place, I slide the ligature down with my thumb to keep everything firm. Now I can adjust my reed and make sure it's aligned correctly. The tip of the mouthpiece should be even with the tip of the reed. The sides should be straight and the base should be straight as well, with the ligature line being well below the little U shape in the wood. I'm going to align mine for you and show you close up so you can see. We give our ligature screws a couple of turns to make sure they're nice and snug, but not overly tight. And this is what it should look like. Now that that's all assembled, I'm going to take my cap, place it back on the mouthpiece to protect it. If you don't have a cap, simply set the barrel and mouthpiece combination down in the case carefully so as not to damage the reed. The next thing I'm going to do is look for the bell. It's the funny shaped piece of the clarinet. Very easy to find. The piece that connects to the bell is the longer piece that only has one cork attached to it. I'm going to lift that piece out and, trying very hard not to crush the keys with my hand, I'm going to hold it down here where there are very few keys. There's only 3 down here. And I'm going to hold it tightly, but not too tightly. I'm going to take this part of the bell, apply it to that cork, and twist and wiggle it into place until it's very snug and all the way in there. Shouldn't take too much force. Be careful if you're trying to force it. The next part of the body has 2 corks. One of these corks has a lot of keys around it. This is the part we're going to need to connect next. This is a very important part of connecting the clarinet. If I simply place the clarinet and do the same process of fitting it together, there's this little tiny tab under here that will hit this little tab on this side. And that can create problems. So what I need to do is, with my left hand, I need to push this lowest ring key right there. I need to push that down with my thumb. That causes that tab right there to lift and get out of the way of the other tab. And now I'm going to wiggle and twist that into place and release it. Now the majority of my clarinet is assembled. Now I'm going to set it in my lap, grab the barrel and mouthpiece, which I already assembled, and very carefully wiggle and twist those into place. Now, the mouthpiece should line up, the reed should line up with the register key, should line up with the hole, should line up with this little thumb rest right here. All of these things need to be in a nice straight line in order to play correctly. And now I'm all ready to play. To disassemble the instrument, we're going to do the exact opposite procedure. We're going to take the mouthpiece and barrel off in one piece. I'm going to place my cap on top to protect them and set them in the case. I'm going to separate these 2 joints in the same way, depressing that same ring key right here with this left hand. Wiggle and twist apart, set that back in the case. I'm going to grab the bell, keeping my other hand in the same area of these 3 keys, and twist that apart nice and easily. Place the bell back, and finally the body. The clarinet can be kind of hard to tell how it all sits back in the case, but it only fits in there one way. So make sure everything sits down in there nice and evenly. Then last, I'm going to take my cap off. Doing the reverse process, I'm going to unscrew my ligature here, slide the ligature up with my thumb, freeing the reed, grabbing the reed from the side, placing it back in my mouth where it is safe. Now again, I'm going to take mine out and set it down so I can keep talking to you, but yours should stay in your mouth at this point. Slide my ligature back down, give the screws a couple little half turns so it stays on there. Disconnect the mouthpiece from the barrel, place the barrel back in the case. Cover the mouthpiece back up with the cap, place it in the case, and finally, remove my reed from my mouth and place it in its reed case. You have to be very careful with this step, as it's very easy to break the reed at this point. If I miss the reed case, I could split the reed in half. I want to slide it in nice and easily, place that back in the case. Then I close my case, and the lid should sit nice and flush without too much effort. If you're having to force your lid down, chances are one of your body pieces of the clarinet is backwards or in the wrong spot. Now that it's nice and flush, I simply close my latches, and that's all there is to it.